I call to order the Waverly City Council for September 12th, 2016. Let us rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Is he 16 now? 4 years ago.
Let us pray. Dear God of creation, your hand authors the creative order. Our hands fulfill thy will. Use us tonight to be faithful to the direction of life to which you lead us. And may we reflect thy peace, which passes all understanding. Amen. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed by our city clerk, Carla Geyer, with one correction? Okay.
I would move approval of the agenda with the striking of regular business item 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Becomes our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the August 15th and 22nd minutes as distributed by our city clerk?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Then become our official minutes. Our guest council person for this month of September is Matt Stower. Matt, you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the public? It's great to have you with us. You're going to have full voice tonight, and so it's just good to have you with us. Little maybe background, anything you'd like to say about yourself?
Matt Stoyer, my wife and I, Angie, we've lived in Waverly now since 2005. Just glad to come and be part of this and see how city government kind of works.
It's great to have you. This time I would entertain any comments by the public on any items that are not on tonight's agenda. Anybody would like to have anything spoken on any items not on tonight's agenda? Yes. There should be a drum roll. I think that.
Good evening.
It's
I'm
good
Dennis
to-
Hapley, Fire
good
Chief.
evening.
Just wanted to tell you that we just completed the 2016 Firefighters Convention in Waverly. And I think from all reports we've gotten, it was a great success. From the firefighter standpoint, I know it was. They had fun despite the weather and everything else that transpired. But yeah, it was a fantastic time. We had a fantastic bunch of people in town. We had about 2,200 people that came in. I'm not ready to give you a full report yet on everything, but just thought I'd come and thank you, and also let you know that in 2018 we were approved by the IFA to host this venue again. We have to go through all the city proceedings and everything like we did before, so everybody will have a chance to voice their opinion, and hopefully the positive feedback we get will come to the surface, and we'll make another successful convention in 2018. We'll be before you on that at a later date, but just so you know, the rumor is correct. We have been selected to do that again.
Let me also say while you're up here that it was these are wonderful people, and I met many of them, and it was just a joy. Their appreciation of Waverly was also clear, and that was also a joy. I thought the parade was just extra special.
Thank you.
And
yes, we heard comment after comment through the campground about how hospital Waverly was. They welcomed them with open arms, and everybody from the merchants right on down to the citizens they met on the street, nothing but great comments about Waverly.
I also think that I know the merchants. Saturday was particularly a very good day.
We hope so. That's what it's all about.
I know.
To help
'Cause I went
everybody in
around
town.
and talked. It was peppy downtown.
That's good.
And so, yeah, well, thank you. It takes a huge effort on your part, and know that we appreciate it.
You bet. The team effort the fire department put forward, the hours, it's unbelievable. And like I said, we'll come with a more formal report at a later date, but just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief, how many RVs did you have? Do you know?
Right at 1,000.
How many golf carts did you have? How many
Yeah, right.
needed?
Probably in the 750 range, right in that area. Yeah.
How many
most
needed
everybody.
cleaning when it left?
I'm sorry.
How many needed cleaning?
Absolutely every one of them.
Every one of them. Yeah.
So, Dennis,
Yes.
the important question maybe is, did any of the Waverly firefighters win any of those competitions?
Actually, none of the firefighters had time to enter any of the competitions this year.
Gracious hosts.
Dennis is very modest in the effort that went into this. I know there were several firefighters, especially Wednesday, moving in the biggest block. With the rain we had over Tuesday night, we had 8 big four-wheel drive tractors out there helping folks get through the mud. On Saturday or Friday during the rain, they had 8 inches of water going across the main tent floor, and that all had to be dried out and put back into shape so we could have a meal and the band on Friday. And I know many firefighters were doing 20-hour days for 5-6 days in a row. So I think the planning committee did an excellent job. I've talked to people around town, and just the ability to move that many people around town and not cause congestion was amazing. Email and phone just keep ringing, and it's all positive. So
That's
I
great.
feel very fortunate to be part of that group, but want to take no credit for it because it was a great planning committee and great leadership that pulled it off.
And great community support. Like Dan said, when we got the rain, we had 8 tractors there, snap of a finger, of our farmer friends helping us out. And if any of you drove through town on that day and saw all of the campers lined up down first, we had staging up by Nestle's, and it was kind of like, oh my God, where are we going to put the next one? But we had people come through, just call up and say, hey, if you need anything, let us know. But that's Waverly. You know, that's the fantastic people we work with.
I had people helping me Thursday with the bowling tournament, and they showed back up on Friday just because they had so much fun and they wanted to do it again. And time and time again, we bumped into folks both in the community and the visitors that, again, expressed their support of it and just the friendliness all the way around. So hopefully we'll be able to repeat that.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
We have 8 items on tonight's consent calendar. We have 3 McClure Engineering bills to pay for the airport, WHKS. We have 2 bills, one for the bridge, one for Bremer Avenue. Peterson Contractors has a bill for the dry run. Blacktop Services has a seal coat bill, and Paul Miller Design has a golf pond project bill. Is there a motion?
Move we accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is seconded. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Consent calendar is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 1 is the purchase of 8 wearable cameras with storage capacity for the police department. City administrator, for the public, the camera's purpose is what again?
I would say it's, in a sense, public and public safety for both officer and citizens. Kind of helps to capture footage. It's certainly a trend across the country. We had budgeted to have half the personnel receive these, the 8, and then hopefully try to get the other 8 with a grant in the spring or in the next budget, depending on how that goes. But they came in under budget, which is nice. And I don't know if Chief Purcell has anything else he'd like to add. I don't think so, unless there's questions. You may note from the budget we have a different vendor than what gave us the quote during budget time, and that was based upon a lot of testing by a group of officers. And the one we presented still came under budget, but it's one that performed the best. And the two biggest things with these cameras was battery life. This had the best battery life through our experience. Had an adjustable camera lens on the mount itself, so you weren't getting pictures of the sky or somebody's arm. So it was very helpful having that. So, but after the field testing, this is the camera that we recommend.
Super. Motion, please. Oh, go ahead.
Just question on it, is there going to be a policy that comes forth as far as use on this, kind of like we did with the tasers?
Oh yeah, we'll have a policy on it.
And then my other question is, and I don't know where this has been, if this has been clarified through the state or whatnot, where do these fall under the open records in terms of how accessible are they if there is an incident?
They'll be very similar to mobile cameras that are in-car cameras. So, yep. So they'll fit the same criteria of the public open records law.
Okay.
So, Chief Purcell, when these, when the officer is on duty with a wearable camera, is the camera on all the time, or only when he turns it on, or how do you decide that?
That'll be on the policy, and it will not be on all the time. It'll be very similar to our policy that we have for our in-car cameras.
How did the pricing compare with the other vendors? I mean, the most important thing is that it works for you, but I'm just curious how the pricing.
Right. The pricing on the one that we presented and this one are very similar. And so, the camera itself of the WatchGuard that we chose is slightly higher than the Panasonic Arbitrator, but the back end software is a little less expensive with the WatchGuard as opposed to the Arbitrator. So we had presented the Panasonic Arbitrator, and this one was performed better and still came under budget. So
For the
it
public,
seems like
we're in-
no
we're
matter
in the
which way you
12
went.
We're in the 12,000 range here, I think.
Right. We
Somewhere.
budgeted 12.7, and this was 11.9. And it just seemed like no matter how you sliced it, it was all going to end up being about the same kind of money. That it looked inexpensive, and then, like through Taser, you had to go to the cloud, and then you had to pay a monthly fee per user, and as it was a la carte. So the more you added to it, the more things that you wanted to do to manipulate the audio and the video. It cost more. So at the end, I think it all balances out. But this is the one that we chose. And
Will the storage costs? I mean, I suppose your policy will also address how long you keep film. Well, it's not film. Keep the media. But are there storage costs in the future that we will have to consider that will be an increase to your budget?
currently, we have a server set aside for that we're sharing through the safety board, and that'll house this in the future. I think we have, I want to say, 32 terabyte currently available to us.
It's anything like the camera system we have at work, the storage medium is very reasonable, so.
Okay.
And the retention policy will help that, to keep rotating those out.
Okay, let's pick up a formal motion.
Okay, I would move approval of purchase of 8 Vista HD extended capacity wearable cameras, Vista Transfer Station, Evidence Library, and Vista licensing from WatchGuard of Allen, Texas for the Waverly Police Department for the purchase price of $11,945.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. More council discussion? Public input? All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Purchased. Regular business item number 2 is to approve our annual.
We skipped that one. Removed that one. So we're
Well, this is the new 2.
Oh, the new 2.
The new 2.
The new 2. Three is
Regular
the-
business item. The new business. Regular business item number 2 is to approve our annually prepared street finance report. Let's go directly to a motion.
I'll move Resolution 1672, approving the street finance report for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Second.
Second?
Motion second, council discussion.
Wonder maybe just a little bit of background of why this is brought before council, or probably normal course of business, but I don't want to maybe just.
Approve this, but I'll let Jennifer speak to that.
It is a report, this annual street financial report, which is the road use tax fund mostly, but it is required by the state that we present it to the council and it be approved by resolution.
Is there anything you'd want to summarize or highlight?
No, there wasn't a lot involved. There weren't a lot of projects. You take the revenues and expenditures, and that's the typical Fund 110. As far as bonds, there wasn't anything different. The bonding that you use in conjunction with this are not the total amount of the bonds, but just the amount of bonds that are pertain to the streets. It wouldn't include water, sewer, or anything like that.
The other element of this is kind of that inventory list for the state.
Yes, that was a new requirement several years ago, and that just gets added on and deleted accordingly.
It's really looking backwards as opposed to approving forward, correct?
Pardon me?
It's more of a report looking in the rearview mirror as opposed to approving the budget going forward.
Correct. It is last year's, the fiscal year ending 2016, yes.
I apologize, this may be in the material, but I never had a chance to look at it. Do we have a sense for, with the increase in the motor fuel tax, what our increase ended up being?
I guess I don't have that information. But I could get it for you if you would like.
Just no big hurry, but as we've heard with the 3rd Street Bridge project, there seems to be a lot of extra road use tax money out there, and I just wondered what that meant for us as far as ability to do other projects and start addressing residential streets, those type of things.
Good question. Public input. Roll call vote, please.
Resnick.
Yes?
Waldstein.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
Resolution 16-72, unanimously approved. Regular new business item number 3 is to work with Intercog, our regional government, to update our 2011 comprehensive land use plans. City Administrator, comments here?
We're just, as you said, we're trying to keep the land use plan updated, future land use map, and Intercog has done this in the past with us, I believe. So we have a project on here not to exceed $3,000 to continue that process. It's been 5 years almost since it's been updated. I guess we're in our 5th year since then, and so that's how we'd like to continue forward, is making sure every 5 years we have an updated comprehensive land use plan map.
Okay.
It sounded, though, in the materials, and maybe this is wrong, but that maybe this is a smaller update than typical?
I believe so. I'll let Bill comment further on that.
Generally, if you do a full comprehensive review process, it's $40,000-$50,000. We're just taking the document we already have and seeing where it needs to be made, changes made, and the map revised. We've made revisions to the map as we've done zoning changes, that kind of thing. So it's just really a way of keeping it up to date rather than wait 10 years, do it halfway through.
Good question. Formal motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 1673, approving the request for the assistance of the staff of the Iowa Northland Regional Council of Governments to review and evaluate the comprehensive plan for the city of Waverly.
Second.
Second.
Motion seconded. More council input. Public input. Roll call vote.
Angus.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resnick.
Resolution 16-73 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 4 New regular business item number 4 is our cable production agreement with Wartburg College. City Administrator, any comments on this one?
Each year, we have a contract with Wartburg to do the broadcasting for the council meetings. This is that agreement that expires in the fall, so it's being renewed to continue forward. I think that was council's wishes to somehow continue forward with this contract, and that's kind of what's before you. We're looking at an expenditure of $25,000 roughly in 16-17, and then about $31,000 17-18 as they look to enhance the programming that would be a part of the new agreement. If you have any additional, more detailed questions, I'd direct that to Tabray.
Okay, but let's pick up a motion in a second first and then discuss. Or not. Would anyone like to motion?
I'll move Resolution 1674 approving the cable access operation and production agreement with Wartburg College for the anticipated expenditure required for fiscal year 2016-17 of $25,075 and anticipated expenditure of fiscal year 2017-18 of $31,075.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion seconded. Now, council discussion.
Looks like the difference between the 16-17 and 17-18 is addition of a program producer. Is it a person or?
Correct. It's a Wartburg staff person that would be the key person that would be producing the extra things that we wanted, the PSAs, the project updates, those types of things.
And we don't need one of those right now.
The person at Wartburg is brand new. We thought we'd let him get his feet underneath him for a year, and then we can work with him and put some ideas together so we can provide a good plan.
I know we talked about this once before. We brought it to council, and I think there's quite a bit of discussion if this is something we'd want to do, and I'm not sure the outcome was positive in that direction, and so I'm assuming this is kind of bringing this again. My only question, later on the agenda, we've got a survey, and some of the questions on the survey relate to the public opinion of some of these items. I think personally it would be good for us to get the survey results and see really what things people would be looking for if they use it. I'm very much a proponent of the public broadcast, but I wonder how much it's used and how many people would want us to actually expand the funding for it. So personally, I'd want to see the survey results come back and get a little more information from what the public feel.
I heard from the council that the council wanted expanded programming. That's how come we kind of did this. We have some opportunities with some good people to do a better job, so that's the reason why we put this together.
I recall the conversation also being that we wanted to continue with Wartburg College. I think the discussion, as I remember, is over where in the budget. I mean, how do we pay for it? And whether we just move it into the regular budget or our MediaCom.
In my opinion, that's a completely separate issue.
Yeah,
This
which
agreement
completely
is
separate.
this agreement is outlines what we expect out of the Wartburg College Communication and Journalism Department, and I think we're getting a pretty good deal with what we're going to be paying them, with what we're going to be getting.
Yeah.
If the survey results come back and the council does not see the value in this, there is a 60-day out clause in this that you could terminate the contract. So I think that would cover any issue you may have there. Be a matter of giving notice, and in 60 days it would be ended. So just to put you at ease with that.
Yeah, I definitely, just from your comments, Deb, I definitely support Wartburg doing this, and it provides good experience for them. I just had a question about if we would add additional broadcasting and stuff. I'm not sure we completely decided or agreed on that.
That's true.
There's discussion of cable casting local events and sports, which should really be nice, but I'm not sure if there's support for that or how that would work. And and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you have a plan for that, if we could record football games and if the high school supports or would do that for us, or how was that?
Yeah, right now, we're looking more like project updates, so we can put Mike in front of the camera and say if the project is on time and what's happening and those types of things. Or PSAs like putting Jen in front of the camera and saying how to sign up for utilities, those types of things that are public interest type things that potentially we can use over and over again each year and build up a number of commercials that we would have on the cable access channel that we'd be able to use over and over again.
Notice you didn't say putting yourself in front of the camera. Parks, trails.
I did not.
More
Tab,
council discussion?
question. Tab, you say in the summary statement that the current agreement expires in August and is automatically renewed if unchanged. So are we talking about last month? It came to the end of its cycle, and we are in the new cycle now. Is that correct?
That's what we're operating under right now. This one is dated September, I think. Takes a little time for things to go through here. Let's see. Oh, October 1st, if this is approved.
So our resolution is to approve a certain amount of funding, because it sounds like the arrangement continues. Is that correct?
Right. Funding isn't part of it, except for the estimate of costs that I put in the staff summary. The issue is the agreement itself. How to fund it is a separate issue.
Thank you. More council input? The public like to weigh in on this before we roll call vote?
I guess I'm,
David?
yeah, before we roll call
No,
vote, let's wait
yes,
for
go ahead.
public comments.
Mm-hmm.
Just
You can make comment after that, sure. Any public input? Last comment, David, go ahead.
No, I guess, again, personally, I would like to see, that, Mike makes a good point. The contract has already been renewed. We're solid with Wartburg. To me, I think we need, before I would approve additional funding, I'd like to actually have people agree with what we're going to do and have total alignment. I guess I don't feel comfortable voting for this now without that information.
Sure.
Refresh my memory, what is the status of our franchise fee? I know there was a vote recently on that. Didn't we not renew that?
That's correct.
Expires in May.
Well, that's kind of a wrinkle. We're still looking into that. There are some documents that Mediacom has that claims it will go on much longer than that, but I don't know if that interpretation is correct. We're trying to dig through that. We are operating still as if it ends in May until we get consensus that that is the correct, verbiage that it does continue on. That's how we're still operating. So there is some belief it will continue forward. We did not have any of those documents, so to see something like that without having seen them before was kind of interesting. But again, that's from Mediacom, the state, and their agreement. So we're still digging into that, but right now we're acting as if it does end in May.
Sure.
So
I think today, like Mike does updates on K-Way radio, I just wonder what's our reach on something like K-Way compared to what this would be, because this would be limited to cable subscribers, Mediacom subscribers today.
This will be simulcast on the Waverly Utilities PEG channel as well. In fact, the new PEG channel is up on Waverly Utilities subscribers right now. The message board is completely different. It looks really good, and besides the messages going across, there's some news features. There's weather going across the bottom. It's going to be much more popular than what it has been. It's maybe some music going in the background.
Is this something that we can capture on a website, possibly, or
I don't know that. We used to have it on the website, and then we.
as opposed to, this with expanding this, but is that something that we can do, kind of get the same bang out of a website, maybe?
It's possible. I can talk to him. When we changed to YouTube, that's kind of when that stopped. So we'll have to figure that out. But you know what? The IT people at Warburg could figure that out. I can't.
I meant just internally, we're posting things to Facebook and a lot of different areas and our own website, and chamber website stuff. They're just wondering if.
Yeah, we do.
I'm just wondering if the additional $6,000 wouldn't be better addressed during budget time after we know what status of our franchise fee, what money we're coming in.
Yeah, personally, I think we could put, as I was reading through the questions in the survey, I think we could expand that, get a better idea of what value people think, and also the budget concern as well, I think need to be addressed.
I'm fine with continuing it. Don't get me wrong, I support this, but I guess as far as expanding it and then spending money in the next year's budget, I'm not sure I'd really ready to do that.
But it has automatically renewed, so this is after the fact.
On the plus side, communication, name of the game, and this will improve our communications. And so, public input before we vote. No, we did that.
To be clear on this, we're simply agreeing to the expenditure for 2016-17. But 17-18 is anticipated, but it's not locked into anything.
They're both anticipated, is the way the resolution reads.
Like I said, there's a 60-day out. If you decided that you didn't want to fund 17-18 or you wanted to change, I'm certain you could reorchestrate that, end the contract, change it into a new contract. I mean, that's why the outs are in there. I don't think it locks you into necessarily anything. You are basically approving 16-17, which we are currently in. I think at the same amount is shown here. 17-18, it is anticipated, but again, if the council chooses not to go that route, you can certainly find a way to rescind this contract.
Yeah.
I look at this as a way to send a message to Wartburg that we are still wanting to work with them, and gives the staff and Wartburg an opportunity to test a few things between now and whenever we do make a decision. And I can't see either party being opposed to changes down the road. So to me, it's just reinforcing that partnership has been a good one, and we want to keep it going, and we'll figure out some of the details as we move along and adjust as we need to.
I guess personally, I don't want the message to get turned around a little bit. Our contract with Wartburg has already been renewed, so we still have that desire with Wartburg. Obviously, it's automatically been renewed. I think we just need to figure out what we want to do before we approve it. And I guess I'm not comfortable with approving something thinking that maybe we can rescind it later. I'd rather do our homework first.
Roll call vote, please.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Lampy.
No.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Scher.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
Resnicek.
No?
Resolution 1674 passes with 2 no votes. Regular business item, new regular business item number 5 is to recoat our swimming pool slide. Let's go directly to a motion.
I'll move Resolution 1675, approving the change order number 1 for the outdoor pool slide renovation project for the increased cost of $6,800 to recoat the open flume slide with Regal, I guess, coating or Reg Gel, what is it? Whatever it is, Tab. Coating to Fisher Brothers LLC of Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion seconded. Council discussion.
Has this already been done?
Yes. It's re-gel coating the slide.
One thing I wondered, I saw that they look super. I saw, could we have done this in the spring and added 6, 7, 8 months to this?
We put the bid out to start this fall. We could have done it in the spring. I kind of want to get it done. Actually, they had it from August 23rd until April to get it done. The contractor was available right after the pool closed, so they jumped on it, and I'm fine with that. I'd rather not wait on weather and such in the spring, because I've done that before, and things get delayed.
The slide was a little bit worse shape than we thought, and that's why we're going to.
Correct, yeah. It had some cracks and some nicks, more than what we thought. The gel coating was something that would extend the life of the slide for many years.
But what I understood you to say in the documentation here too is that it's a more expensive but better coating that will extend the life of the slides, which can then be used, actually extend the life of the slides perhaps beyond the life of the pool, but that they could be used again. Did I read that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Do
what?
these
So,
get protected from the weather in the wintertime or off-season?
That's the reason why the tube slide was not affected, because it's completely enclosed. The weather and the sun is what delaminates it, but it's 18 years old, so it's lasted pretty well.
Tab, so now the job's been done already. So
Yeah,
if
we really couldn't wait for like 4 weeks with the
Yep.
contractor there.
So this is the devil's advocate question. If we don't approve this, then are you going to have to take the regel off, or does this come out of your retirement fund, or what do we do then?
No and no.
This is to place humor on it. Other council input, public input. Roll call vote, please.
Scherer.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Reznичek.
Res-
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 16-75 is unanimously approved. New regular business item number 6 is to wrap up this year's street seal coat effort. Let's go directly to a motion.
I move Resolution 16-76, accepting the 2016 bituminous seal coat program is complete and approving change order number 1 of $2,082.30 decrease, and pay estimate number 2 of $6,447.76 as final pay request to Blacktop Services of Humboldt, Iowa.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. Council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Reznичek. Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 16-76 is unanimously approved. New regular business item number 7 is the Waverly Citizen Survey 2016. Is there a motion, please?
I'll move to review and approve the Waverly Citizen Survey of 2016.
Second.
Second.
Council discussion.
Will this be done electronically? Or how will this be?
No, we will mail this out to the billing address. In order to do it electronically, we'd have to have gathered a great amount of emails, and a lot of people don't want to put those out there for us to have. So to accommodate that, maybe in the future, we would like to do that. Just if I could, this is follow-up to the 2013 Citizen Survey, which we kind of walked through and reviewed, and a lot of good information off that. Really let the public kind of give some insight on what they think of the city, the services, the things that could be done better, things that they do like, how they're being done. Fortunate enough for the fall and winter to have an intern in our office, an administration office, at a co-op student from Waverly Shell Rock High School sitting in the audience. His name is Jackson Little, and he actually prepared this survey. It's one of the first projects he's accomplished for us. Our goal is to send this out to 2,500 residents instead of the 900 the first time, to see on a wider base, will it still produce the same trending or the same percentage increase, decrease. So we look at the 2013 survey as a good baseline, and we wanted to expand it further 3 years later, see if there is a trend or not. So that's why the questions on here are almost identical. We didn't want to change it too much and then have it possibly taint the way the questions were asked or the questions themselves that existed on it. So a lot of it was updating it, formatting it so we get the cheapest postage possibly, trying to keep it to a certain number of pages, and yet still have it be legible. So again, I want to thank Jackson for doing his project on his spare time. Yeah, he's with us about 2 to 3 hours a day in the afternoon, and we'll have him through his first semester, and then unfortunately that'll be all we'll be able to have him. So we're going to put his interest in city planning, civil engineering to use, starting with this. So that's kind of a short synopsis of what we have in front of us.
Thank you.
These are the same exact questions as the last time?
Basically, yes. If there was questions on a project that we had completed, we removed that question. But for the most part, we left them identical throughout, so it would be a similar basis to improve on.
I guess I had some questions on some of the wording, but if it's exactly how it was before, it would be.
I believe it is. We kind of reset it, typed it out to where it was the exact same, and then reformatted it and maybe reshuffled to make everything fit. Again, apparently an extra page costs us so much more in our postage. We didn't know that. So we have formatted down in the effort to be efficient to get the cheapest postage we can as we send these out.
Utility bills, or how did that go?
I think it was sent out with the same way, pre-addressed envelope back. And then at the time, though, we had hired Jeff Schott from Institute Decision Making Iowa City to do the results for us. This time we'll have Jackson compile that, as he is truly an unbiased individual of this council, myself, staff. He will combine and compile the results of it and prepare them to be reviewed then by council. And that way we're saving the funding we would have had to have hired Mr. Schott or anyone else for that matter to have done that for us. We estimate we can do the entire thing for a little less than $300,000. So most of it being postage and material.
So James,
How do you select the recipients of this survey?
We actually pulled every address in our database for utilities and eliminated, of course, businesses. You want to get individuals, residents, multiple residences, city property. It's quite a process, and it's been weaned down to a little under 2,700. And so we may do all of them. We may do just 2,500 random, but we like to encompass the entire city if possible.
So you're not, selecting so many in each ward, or so you get a.
We'll try to do that, but really we'll encompass almost everybody is the goal. So it'll be the bulk of each ward.
So it goes to a household?
Yes, actual household or an apartment. If there's someone that we had a resident on there, and we are going to send it to name. I can't remember if we're name or resident. I can't remember how we were going to send that out necessarily, but we're hoping to get as much impact as we can.
so James, one to a household. If we have a couple adults in the household, do they both get a voice, or do they have to have a fight about who actually gets to fill it out?
I'm going to hope there's not a fight over this. If there is, and I guess that's good to have that kind of passionate impact.
You're doing
for the
fine
city,
as a city until.
I'll check with Chief Purcell later, see if we had any calls specifically concerning the survey, but I'm doubtful there'll be that kind of passion for that. I hope they can come together and have a single survey. If not, maybe photocopy and send 2 back.
But it is acceptable to get two opinions from the same house.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I can promise you that one from mine.
Maybe you could just subset it or put another column, different colored ink. I don't know how you want to do it, but whatever you need to work out, we can.
Okay.
So, but you as council will not be receiving it, unfortunately, though. Since I don't want to have any tainted bias towards it, directors, myself, we will not be receiving it either. So just so we have that as a truly external basis for the survey instead of our own internal knowledge being applied to that survey. So I'd hate to get the pages and pages that you would send, Mike, of all the wonderful things about Waverly to have to digest that into the public as we review the results. It might taint it and bias it a little bit. So
you're not inviting addenda to
no,
this?
if you can surely fit it on the 4 or 5 pages, we'd appreciate that. But
All right.
I think you got to keep it to 1 per household, no photocopies. Because otherwise someone could photocopy 50 or 100 of them.
That's true.
So to be statistically relevant,
needs to be one per household.
30 copies away.
But that does come back to the
sets that off,
question,
doesn't
is it then okay for a husband and a wife to indicate their opinions on the same form, or do you just want one
I would
answer?
hope they would work together.
We won't talk about the secret watermarks in the typing paper that'll tell you if it's an original or not, so don't even try it, we'll know.
I appreciate the student helping. This has got to be a good experience, especially the questions that go around. People start questioning, how is it going to sample? What's the bias?
Yep.
What are the errors? This is a good exercise for the student. And I'd be interested, for them to look at the questions and see if they can find, because there's some of these they could cause some controversy.
Well,
But if
absolutely.
they're the same exact questions as last time, then we'll see the trends.
That's what we're hoping, to see even or increase, decrease, certain departments, certain services, and
A million.
I think Jackson looks like a fairly honest kid, so I don't think he's going to taint it or try and
Oh, yeah, that's
spin it. So we'll make sure he keeps his hand off the keyboard too much in one direction or the other. So
Yeah, I think, I like the survey the last time we did it with the questions that we forced them to choose agree or disagree and don't give them options of something in between on a lot of them. But in the quality of service area, I think it was very helpful to see the differential between no opinion to very satisfied and give them more than a yes or no type thing, so.
yeah, I think it was a good, thorough survey the first time through, and it tackled a lot of areas, public interest and infrastructure and a little bit of everything. And then there are some open-ended questions that people can certainly take some time and analyze as well, but we're really looking forward to getting that data. We may not have it for goal setting, but we will definitely have it for budget, have it processed out so it can be looked at as we're making some of those decisions going forward. So it's kind of the ultimate goal. I'd like to have it for goal setting. I just don't know if it can all be processed. If we get half of them back, that'll be 1,300. And that's going to be a lot to process into a meaningful set of data that you can truly get something from. So
That would normally be very high return, but do you know what it was the last time?
just over 40%.
Really? Wow.
401 out of
Oh, that's
900, I
good.
believe. So about 40%. So if we get that this time, again, that could be, what could be 1,000. So
Okay.
We put anything in the paper they expected, or?
yeah, we're hoping that Eric will help us and just put a brief article out that this will be coming out. We'll probably have it out by Friday. Absolutely. Grab Jackson. Be careful what you say, Jackson. It'll go in the paper. We'll maybe talk ahead of time.
I'm telling you, he's going to learn a lot.
I'm afraid of that, Dave. We may.
I was thinking more doing about how Jackson's taking on this job.
Sure.
Yeah.
We may cure him on wanting to be in government, but we'll see what we can do with it. But no, I need blurb on a paper. Let them know it's coming. We hope to have these sent out by this week. Then, if council approves, we'll have them mailed, stamped, and sent. Hopefully by Friday, so they will be coming out in the mail. Yeah, I know. We're expecting them back around the end of the first week, middle of the week of October. So about 2.5, 3 weeks to fill them out, get them sent back. Self-addressed envelopes, not going to cost them anything. So we hope everyone will take the time if they receive one to fill them out and get it back and give us that feedback. So
Sure.
Mayor, I don't.
Oh, I was just curious, you said you used Waverly Light and Power to pull names. Do we know how many city of Waverly residents do not get Waverly Light and Power?
we pulled our utility, water, electric, I believe. I'm trying to think. What's that?
County, we got that.
Oh, that's true. We tried that. Nope, you're right, Carla. We actually pulled it from the assessor's office, listing of all residential addresses. That is true. I forgot about that. Gene got that for us. So we got them all, more than we wanted, and we thinned them out the best we could, and I think we're at about 2,700 almost, so from about 5,000, so it was a lot to pare down and make sure it was not duplicated. So
This could be going to a renter that doesn't necessarily pay their own utilities.
it's possible, and then we'd hope we'd see a no opinion or things of that nature. We hope they wouldn't say it was too high if they're not paying it, but you may get that person. I don't know.
Okay. Public input. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Going out. New regular business item number 8 is to look at our Bremer Avenue reconstruction. This will be update number 5. Dave Little. And Mike, 2. And/or?
I'll introduce. We got Nick Humphel here from the DOT. Dave Little was not available to make it tonight, so Nick is going to fill in for him. And then with the traffic engineers, we have Scott brought Tony with him, who actually is out of the Dubuque office, not Mason City, but he is the expert on the traffic modeling and will be able to address questions related to that. Nick was here when Dave gave his presentation, so we know that there were some questions that came up, in particular about emergency response vehicles. I know Dave reached out to the fire chief, police chief, and such and the sheriff to help address some of those concerns. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick, and then he's going to, I think, pass the baton on to the traffic engineers to address the efficiency flow of traffic. One thing I do want to point out is a few weeks ago when we did the third public information meeting and gave the presentation to the council, and when I say we, I really mean these guys over here, but we are participants in this and reaching out to the public, engaging the public, and soliciting feedback and comments, and it's been a great process. And one of the things that was addressed early on was public safety. And the thought was that was going to be high on the public's priority here to go after what is the most safest roadway configuration for our community. That is also very much a part of our mission statements. And I think it's one of the first things on the DOT's mission statement is safety. It's about safety to the traveling public and identifying those. So in that respect, that's where much of the focus of the presentation was on. Later on, what we kept hearing from the public, though, was we don't think we have a compelling or dramatic safety issue. We maybe have minor accidents, minor injuries, but we're not seeing, catastrophic accidents with major injuries. And so at that point, it kind of becomes a public policy decision. And I think what the traffic engineers are going to focus more on tonight has to do with opportunities to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of traveling through the community. And that was something that kind of kept coming up over and over and over again. And the one intersection that I think comes to everyone's mind is 4th and West Bremer Avenue. And that traffic backs up 1-2 blocks during 3 to 6 p.m. very routinely during the weekdays. And how can we improve the flow through that? And that's where they're going to address that element of it.
Thank you, Mike. Nick?
Thank you. As Mike said, my name is Nick Humpel. I'm with the Iowa DOT as one of our staff engineers out of the district office. And I am here just to kind of follow up on a couple questions we heard from the last time after Dave Little's presentation. I'll switch over. One of the comments or concerns that we heard was how would an implement such as a combine, a large combine, get through the 3-lane section? So what's on the screen here is just a real brief, simple depiction of what the proposed roadway section would look like with the parking lanes, 9.5-foot parking lane in each side. The 12-foot travel lanes would be here and here, and then with the center 14-foot turn lane. And then on that, we also show the 5-foot buffer beyond the travel lanes, in between the parking and the travel lane on both sides of the highway. And then what we've done is gone ahead and laid on a standard, massive, brand new 16-foot wide combine. That includes the duals and everything, the width that you'd see traveling through the corridor, and placed it. This is kind of just a general idea to kind of say, okay, here's where they can drive without necessarily being directly in the turn lane. The other thing here to look at is it's not show the combine, so it's not directly in the turn lane, but there is the ability that they would still have the 5.5 feet from the 17-foot mark over to about the 22.5 foot, where a car traveling in the opposite direction, which is typically about 8.5 feet wide or thereabouts, would still have adequate room to utilize that left turn lane in the opposite direction. So that's kind of the point of this illustration. The other concern we heard was about the emergency response vehicles, police, fires, that kind of stuff. And they've reached out to Sioux Center as police chief and had a pretty good discussion with him regarding how it functions for them, what they see kind of as the pros or cons of it also. And they're really, really pleased with the way the 3-lane section works in their response. They have a very similar setup, very similar typical with the parking and then the buffer space between the lanes. And he explained that as they come through, the vehicles just, as they normally should, pull to the right and allow the officer to travel down the center of the road. And those that may be waiting to make a left turn while they're coming through, they kind of cheat themselves back to the right in the opposite direction. And overall, they said they've seen a great reduction in crashes, and they've been pleased with the 3-lane section in their community. So those were the big two. I will be around for the rest of it, but I will kind of pass the baton over to WHKS so they can follow up on some of the
Quick
operations
comment.
and traffic.
I appreciate you having this diagram up because I've had a chance to visit with 2 out of the 3 implement dealers in town, and I think there's confusion or people don't understand what the concept is, because when I sat down with them, they said, yeah, there's no way we can go down a 12-foot road. And I said, okay, how wide would you need? And they said 15 to 16 feet. So I said, okay, if we design a road 17 feet wide, could you get through it? And they said, oh, yeah, it'd be much better than what we have. But they also followed that up with, it doesn't do a whole lot of good to do that on Bremer if we don't do something with 4th Street. So to me, you're going to get stuck behind these implements. There's no way to, same as we do now, you're going to have to wait as a motorist. But for them safely to get through it, to me, this is a great enhancement. And while one of them said we'll probably still take the bypass and go around Waverly when we need to go to the east or to the north, the other said, geez, 17 feet, we can work with that. And so I hope this message gets out to folks and we kind of dispel some of the misconception that's out there. And then, again, on the emergency side of it, I appreciate that, but there are times now where in the fire truck we have to go on the oncoming traffic lane, so I don't see that changing going forward. If folks cannot get over for some reason, we have that option of going into the oncoming lane, and folks should be pulling over for us to make us room to get through there. So I don't see it being much different than what we deal with today on either one of these issues.
Dan, the other thing we have with emergency vehicles is on the traffic signals we have emergency vehicle preemption. So whether it's police, fire, ambulance, or sheriff, when they use their siren, they gain control of the traffic lights. So it's directional, so it gives them the green light. So if there are vehicles, say you're on Bremer Avenue, you're stopped at a red light, but you got an emergency vehicle coming up behind you, when they use their siren, they take control of that light and it turns green. So whether you're in the turn lane or in the through lane, you have a green light and the ability to move out of the way.
That's, again, a helpful piece of the current system, and I'm glad to see that's carried forward. But
Tony?
While we get the screens out here, you can see it on your screens. I'm Tony Zelinskas. I'm with WHKS. As you know, we developed the traffic study that looked at traffic on Bremer Avenue and the side streets and recommended the conversion from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, a road diet, as it's called. As Mike indicated, I know there's been a lot of emphasis on safety, and that is a big part of the discussion. But the operation of of the intersections, especially we're going to talk most specifically about 4th and Bremer tonight, just to give you some idea of how those might operate, and I'm hoping to give you some confidence that the model that we use as the basis for our traffic study is consistent with what you see out there now, and if you believe our model mirrors what's going on now, when we show you the 3-lane section, we hope that you'll be able to see that operates more efficiently, because it's providing throughout the corridor protected, wherever there's a signalized intersection, there's going to be protected movements for left turn lanes that are not there now, and that because of that efficiency, we're going to have better movement through the intersection, and we'll just talk about that as we go through. What we have on the screen right now, Scott, I guess if you could start that. Thanks. Right at the beginning, sorry, maybe if you back up just a minute, let's start at the beginning again. This is 4th Street looking east. What you're seeing is we're looking east and the traffic is flowing to the west, so you're not really able to see the rest of the intersections, but I think this is provided by the city. I got through Mike's office. What I think is really, this shows some of the backup, and I know some of the other videos shows it sometimes even going a little further to the east. And we want to talk a little bit about how this is operating, because it's informational, I think, to just see how traffic is actually moving through the intersection. So it'll stop in a second, and then we'll start it up again to get you thinking about how traffic is flowing from the east to the west. And so right now you see 1 car goes, 2 car goes left, the 3rd one goes, then a 4th one. And through the videos we see approximately 4 cars being able to go through the first phase of the intersection, and then you can see cars behind it. Now, I think it's really instructive too, because you see another car is now coming out of the left turn lane. He wanted to actually go, evidently he either got tired of waiting, or he was a through car, and he's pulled out, which is a dangerous move, and one of the types of movements that we would see a 3-lane section would likely avoid, because everyone would be in the right lane. He would just be able to go through, or if he really intended on going left, he could turn into the left lane. But you can see the cars stacking up behind it, and I think what you'll also notice, and again, if we were to go through it, most of the cars are really in the outside lane. So that's one of the features of a 4-lane roadway that's a little bit subtle about it. With 1 car turning left, effectively this becomes a 3-lane roadway. It's it's called in traffic engineering, they call it a de facto left turn lane, or excuse me, a de facto 3-lane roadway, because anywhere along this roadway, when you have 1 car blocking the inner lane, everybody has to move to the outside lane in order to go through or get to the next intersection where they might turn left. And of course, anybody in that inside lane is going to be delayed by anybody that's turning left. And so most people will drive to the outside lane. And if we'll run this one more time so you can kind of see what happens here, because I think it's really helpful to see. We pass 4 cars, then everybody's kind of stacked up waiting, but you can see the cars in the outside lane. Nobody's coming from the west going east yet because they can't, because of the way the signals are. Now, once he stopped because he no longer has, so now we've got traffic going east. And you can see they're in both lanes initially. Nobody's turning left to go north. But once they pass, there's a gap here. And you can see nobody's going, and this guy isn't going because there was maybe not enough delay, couldn't really see. Now you see outside, there's 3 cars all in the outside lane. That middle car still not going, or the left turning car still not going yet. There's 1 more car that's in the outside lane, and it's likely that person didn't go because there probably was a left turner that wanted to go north on 4th Street. So you can see from that video kind of the mechanism, but we get a lot of cars that are in the outside lanes and some of the inside lanes, but really this is your roadway is oftentimes operating as a de facto 3-lane roadway through the city. And that's really a significant thing to understand, because when you go and consider going to a 3-lane section, the most successful ones are ones that in some ways mimic what's there now. If you have a 4-lane roadway now, but it's actually operating very often as a 3-lane roadway, you really don't see much decrease in the capacity of the roadway because of that. Because most of all the turning traffic is moving into an inner lane, and all the traffic is on the outside lane. And the safety benefits of that conversion have been, I think you've been made aware of that. There's a number of reductions in all types of accidents and the frequency of those accidents that also go along with that. Now,
Do we know what time of day this video was shot?
I don't know what time of day that was. I believe it was
3:40 or 4:40. Okay.
And just so you know, when we took our traffic counts, we took counts in the morning from 7 to 9, and then from 2:30 to 6:30. And so we feel we captured that peak time in our traffic numbers, and those numbers are reflected in our model. So we took the highest hour of traffic volume that should be similar to what you're seeing here. And I think what we're going to do next is we're going to actually show you the model.
Scott, can you pause it right where it is?
Sure.
Because, okay, 3:30 or 4:40, it's backed up on the westbound in the inside lane.
Right.
On the eastbound on the inside lane, now you've got a couple cars wanting to turn into fairway there. And you've got backing up on that lane. How is that going to work with only one left turn, center turn lane?
Well, if it's going to back up occasionally like that, there's no question. And especially if I say we're mimicking, and sometimes there are going to be times when you have that many vehicles that you're not going to pass it because you've got one lane. I think the important thing is you can't just separate this functionality from the safety aspects of a 3-lane. It's both. The operationally, one thing that's going to happen is we're going to be able to pass more cars in the left turn phase because of these signalized intersections are going to operate somewhat more efficiently because we're going to have protected phases for both eastbound and westbound left turn lanes. But there will be times when there's some stacking that does take place, but it's not. We don't expect it to be as significant or as frequent.
Can we not have a longer arrow turn?
Well, the whole center left turn, the whole center is a left turn lane from one end of the town.
But the arrow itself is so short that we get 3 or 4 cars going. I go here all the time.
That's
Why
exactly.
can't we go to so we can move 12 to 15 cars? Then you will never back up into the.
That's
fairway.
exactly the issue you run into when you have a traffic signal, is trying to balance the time so that you allow more cars to go through, but every time you give more green time to one movement, it delays the other movements. And so it's a balance. And right now the problem you have is, of course, you've only got you've got a traffic that's both through and trying to go left as they go west, and you have traffic coming from the west that wants to go east. And the way it's set up now, you get quite a bit of traffic that's backing up on the westbound as well. So there's a way, obviously there might be some opportunities to optimize the 4-lane, the signal that you have now, but you're not going to be as efficient as if we move to a 3-lane section, and you certainly wouldn't get any of the safety benefits if you merely retimed these signals.
Are you saying that there is as much demand going east as there is going west?
No, I'm not
no,
saying
so therefore, why can't we move 10 cars?
You can by increasing the green time.
Yes.
For the
that will
left
keep
turn lane.
this backup, which is the major backup.
There are ways of doing that, but what happens is all the other approaches anybody on those other approaches gets delayed further. So and it's a balance, because you have to say, I'm willing to let that person be delayed more because I want this to clear, and the westbound to clear.
Of course, and there's nothing wrong with that, is there? To delay those people coming west with their few cars versus all these cars. What everybody feels is an imbalance, and that it's just a pity we can't move more cars because we only have 3 or 4 or 5 over this way, and we got 12 to 15 to 20 going this way.
Sure. And that is a a judgment to be made relative to that intersection, because as a traffic engineer, you talk about levels of service, and usually those levels of service are kind of graded, very high for little delay, and if you're delayed quite a bit, it's a level D or a level F, and we try to provide a level of service C for all of the movements in an intersection. And if you tried to clear 10 cars, say, that amount of time might create quite a bit of delay that would be normally considered excessive in a design or for timing of an
I'm
intersection.
used to other cities where they move so many more.
And it can be done. I guess the point we're trying to make, we haven't got to that point yet, but we think that you have more opportunity to do that with a 3-lane section than you do when you're sharing a lane.
Okay.
That's really the point we're trying to make right
Thank
now.
you.
Yeah, I guess I would, to me, one of the biggest dissatisfiers I've seen from any of these discussions is this intersection. And people are asking me, why don't we just change the light? And it's just a simple question. And I'm kind of, I've sat here many times. I've never seen more than 3 cars get through. I actually, in fact, I sat once and there was a school bus, and the school bus had to wait 3 light changes before they could actually turn left. And it happens every day.
Oh, you mean because they're back in the queue and it's going so slowly, it takes them 3
Yeah,
times
and they
to
weren't
get
very
up to
far
the-
back. They
to the
were
intersection.
4 or 5 cars back.
Sure.
They had to wait 3 light changes
Right,
before.
right.
Because people, these cars, I think there's 4 or something that went through. They were moving pretty fast, but I've never seen more than 3.
The videos we saw were 4 to 5, actually. But and when if we pulled up the video of when we took the counts for several hours, it was usually 4. Probably there were times when it was 3, but it's certainly not as many as you see queued up there.
Actually, I witnessed here that, I don't know if it's this white car here. You see there's a gap behind the red car.
Right.
That car actually turned out of the lane.
Right, exactly.
Probably got tired of it, tired of waiting, and figured he'd go someplace else or something. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Can't read their minds. But
I thought that, he just did it in the video, and I think that's the sort of movement that causes accidents, because it's a lot easier to turn left into a left turn lane than it is to take a right and get out into a lane from.
I think that's me.
I think at our last discussion on this, there was, and you may be coming to this, but there was some thought about keeping this section 4-lane, but really having 2 parallel left-hand turns instead of head-to-head left-hand turns,
Well,
so that
there
you
are
could span 2 blocks while you're waiting to turn. And
There are options to do that, but if you put 2 trucks there, it's going to cause some geometric issues that really create a larger study of this area. But yeah, in the future, there may be a need for more lanes. But right now, we don't think that's necessary for the traffic.
Because what I've heard is folks understand the queuing and somewhat are used to it, but their concern is if I know I'm going to be held up in that second block, that forces me to stay in the right-hand through lane until I can get to the first block. And if I'm doing that, then I'm backing up the through traffic. So the thought was if they could still stack 2 blocks deep in a turn lane, you would at least keep your through lane flowing. And
Yeah.
that seemed to make some logical sense in a simple mind like myself. And
Well, what we're trying to point out is you have a 4-lane section that, generally speaking, is operating. You're getting people stacked up in that inner lane, and what that does for all the through movement, you basically have a roadway that's functioning with 1 lane for your through traffic and everybody else's. So that de facto 3-lane, I want you to keep thinking about that, because when you look how people are using this roadway, that's, if there's a concern about going from 4 to 3 lanes because of capacity, it's operating basically as a 3-lane section now, and that's a significant point to make. And we're going to have left turn lanes, but we're also with that the opportunity to, because you have dedicated left turn lanes, you're able to put in phasing at the signals that allows more traffic to go through that intersection more efficiently. What I'd like to see is show you our model. Because really, what you just saw with the 4 lanes going through and the queue back up, I hope we can give you some confidence, and you'll be able to. It'll be harder to see this from the audience, but on your screens, you're going to be able to see. Excuse me, I'll try to stay close.
You
to
can
the mic.
pick up the mic.
Okay. When you look at the model, you can see traffic is queuing up. Now, one thing that you might see a little differently is these cars on the model are actually stacked up closer than you saw when people are driving. People, at least in Waverly, appear to leave a lot more space as they come up to that left turn lane. They're not, right up next to each bumper. So, that you won't see it, but you can see quite a bit of queuing. The number is, I think we got up to 11 or 12 on the screen. That number reflects fairly well with some of the numbers we were seeing or the video we just showed you. Now, what's really important, I think, first of all, is to understand how we're operating. You understand that going westbound, we have a left turn, you have a lane that everybody uses while the left turners get in. The way the traffic's phasing is, they go first, they go left, and nobody can go eastbound. Only the westbound movement goes for both through and the left turners. Now, once it's timed right now it allows 4 to 5 cars max through that intersection, and then the westbound is released, and it's permissive. Anybody can turn left whenever they find a gap, and of course, eastbound and westbound goes through. Then the way this intersection operates, then the southbound, the south approach, the northbound traffic, there's a left turn, a protected phase there that allows people to turn left and go west on Bremer. And then once that releases, both northbound and southbound goes, and then the whole cycles through again. But what you're seeing here, this in terms of cars, the blue are turning vehicles, left turning, the white are through, and the yellow is a red turn. And those, if you watch it, we're just having it on a kind of a short loop, but you're seeing the cars back up. The westbound cars are backing up, and you can see a number of them coming. It stacks up to, the number of cars is about equivalent, even though it seems that, it's tighter, more compact, but the number of vehicles is about the same. And we see the number of cars that go through on the initial left turn is about 4 vehicles. So we feel it models the intersections on Bremer pretty carefully or pretty closely to what's really happening out there right now. And we think that's somewhat significant. If we were to go back and show you that video, you'd see kind of the same kind of movement. And so, given the traffic numbers that we picked up in the field when we did our counts, and then modeled it, it's matching these videos that we've had provided to us fairly well. And because of that, we think we have now we can go, let's take a look at the model just like we did there, but with a 3-lane section. And so now, Scott, is it up?
I'll put it up now.
Okay, thank you. Now you're looking at a 3-lane section. This is exactly the same traffic that we just had on the previous one with the 4-lane section. And so what you're looking at now is, again, the 4th Street intersection. I can't point to it because I've got a laser pointer, but Scott's moving his cursor around it. We have a center left turn lane, and we have really the same control on the side streets. So that is, northbound traffic is still going to have a dedicated left turn lane and a dedicated phase for left turners, such as what's going on right now. You can see it. Now both directions are moving through the intersection, north and south, and you're seeing the traffic queue up on the intersection. But now the left turn is going, and you're seeing quite a few more cars being able to go through the intersection. And it varies depending on how much time you want to allocate to that. Now, we've optimized the traffic signal, so we're seeing a few more cars go through than you would normally on and that can be optimized even further depending on how much delay needs to be put in the intersection for these other, how much green time do you want to allocate to clear that queue? And that can be done even further. We haven't tried to, fully optimize the intersection, but But this is the existing traffic, and I think you can see that it doesn't continuously back up. We're getting better flow through the intersection, and we're getting left turns. For instance, this would be phased to allow left-turning traffic, both eastbound and westbound, to go initially. Then the extension of it can be the signals can be modified to add green time to take care of longer evidence of vehicles in the turn lanes, and this with the left turn lane, obviously trip vehicles are getting out of traffic, so they're not really there's the danger of somebody coming up and hitting them or side swipes or vehicles changing lanes because they're in the wrong lanes. Those sorts of things are decreased because that kind of movement doesn't happen as often or need to happen on a 3-lane section. Really, that's as much of the update as we want to give you. We just want to give you the idea that in looking at these videos, you can see there's a lot of traffic that wants to be in those outside lanes, and so you have a lot of people, a lot of vehicles when they're in the inside lane. Your 4-lane section really is operating as a 3-lane section, and because of that, going to a 3-lane section really doesn't decrease the amount of capacity for that vehicle. Maybe one final thing. If you looked on, Federal Highway Administration has done road diets. They've got a lot of information about road diets throughout the country. Their top number for annual average daily traffic, where these road diets stop really working very well because there's too much delay and cars start using other streets because of the traffic on the 3-lane, is about 20,000 vehicles a day. That's when they start seeing problems. The average annual daily traffic on Bremer Avenue as of the 2013 DOT counts was at 4th Street was about 12,400. So you're quite a bit less than that threshold. And with increased traffic volumes that you may have over the coming years, it's very unlikely you're going to get up to 20,000 anytime soon. So with that, I'd take any other questions you might have.
Could you go back to your video that you just played?
Sure. Which one?
Yeah. This kind of gets back to my question about, as I watch this and I see the blue cars drop into that turning lane, you have a lot of them dropping in right at the 3rd Street intersection. So to me, they're going into oncoming left-hand turn lane for somebody that wants to go north on 3rd Street.
Yeah.
Is that done on purpose because that's the way you see people?
No, it's more a function of the computer program that says they know it's gonna turn left, so it just takes them over. It just happens to work out the way it works here on this.
And again, that gets to the root of my question of having side-by-side turn lanes versus head-on turn lanes, because if they can't drop in until almost halfway through that intersection, I don't see as many people being able to drop into the turn lane, which means they're going to stack up in the through lane. So I just want to make sure we have a good understanding of what can happen, what does happen in real life. So your model does show that the throughput through the intersection is going to be greater. It's the stacking that I think gets to be the issue.
But Dan, are you talking about then cars traveling east and making a left-hand turn into Fairway? Is that what you're talking about?
Or onto 3rd Street to go into Walmart.
Yeah, to Walmart. Okay. Again, it seems that the model is using a part of the lane that wouldn't be available to a southbound turner at 4th Street. If they're dropping in a whole half a block before the turn lane even becomes available to them, I question if you'd get the same throughput.
Yeah, I think the model is not trying to show you anything like that. It's really showing you that the car is going into a left turn lane. In reality, if there were a number of vehicles that were there, of course you're going to have to go further. But the model isn't really, it's not that accurate a model. It's really trying to show how that traffic is moving through that intersection. Certainly, if you regularly have vehicles stacking up that far, one of the points of retiming this and optimizing it is they're going to reduce that queue, so you don't have that issue at the fairway entrance.
Is that what you were sort of looking at, Dan, with the dedicated?
That hashed out section, it looked like they were dropping.
Yeah, that's just more a function of the computer program than.
So this is helpful because this tells me they're dropping into a hash part of their lane versus to the head-on lane.
4, not the 3.
And
Well,
Scott,
this is a modified 3, it's just different pavement markings.
and Scott, can you show the west leg of that intersection?
Can you use the microphone, please?
That's what the computer model was showing. Was this.
Yep. So that's the west side where we have the 3-lane. And so we're just using different pavement markings from 1st to 4th to try to give a better representation of where they can be so we don't have those overlapping turn movements.
So I could stage or stack a block away from 4th, drive through the 3rd Street intersection in the turn lane, and I wouldn't be pulled over by Rich's
Well,
folks.
I think what Tony's also trying to explain is that they're also looking at changing the timing on the signal so that, Mayor, to your point, you will get a longer left turn lane, a protected left turn movement. But those opportunities only come with changing the geometry of the roadway. Another location I'd like you to point out is like First Street, Northwest. And Scott, if you can just flip the page over, you have kind of a mirror image, but at First Street,
Right.
with this proposed geometry, you also have the ability for protected left turn movements, both east and west on Bremer Avenue at First Street. So maybe instead of going over to 4th Street, you come across the bridge and you turn left to go south past the fire station. Those opportunities do not exist with the current configuration.
So you want
But
to take
those are-
traffic, you want to take traffic down First Street and pile them up over at Burger King? I don't think that makes sense.
There's
You're
op-
taking traffic that is supposed to be going through town and you're taking it through a residential area.
I'm saying with the current geometry, you really don't have those opportunities. With the proposed geometry, you do have that opportunity to create a protected left turn movement in both directions at any signalized intersection that justifies the need for that. Now, that doesn't mean that if it's not justified, you would do it. But if it's justified, you have those opportunities with the change in the geometry that is being proposed by the DOT.
But we can do that today, though. We can put a light on an intersection to have a turn lane today.
You want to restripe it to a 3-lane today?
No.
You could change the timing on the light.
Yeah, we could change
Okay,
the time of
but
the
when you
lights
come
today.
across the bridge, there's no left turn arrow.
Why would you want to turn left? Because you're just going to wait at Burger King. If it's a busy time of day.
You may not be going that far south.
I guess, yeah,
then you
we're
would
kind
certainly
of.
wouldn't want to go clear to 4th Street.
Well, I think maybe the one point is to be made is if somebody does want to go left, they're blocking the lane. I mean, really, that's what happens, and so then they have to wait. But when they're waiting, they're also susceptible to being hit from behind or sideswiped, as opposed to being in a left turn lane that gives them that protection. And that's where I don't think, you can think of operations, but you have to also think of the tremendous safety benefits that a 3-lane section provides.
Do
It has
not-
provided throughout, but without that left turn bay for them to sit in, if they do want to make a left, they're going to be sitting in traffic as opposed to being in an auxiliary lane that allows them to make that turn more safely.
That seems to be an area where there's a lot of shadowing for that.
That's right.
Outside lanes, you can't see the outside lane if you're turning left across. the
Exactly
road.
right. Exactly right.
So are you saying you want to prohibit vehicles from taking certain paths?
No, let's not twist words around. All I said
Just don't
is
want to encourage them.
we could put a stoplight and put a left turn today.
Well, that would be
Whatever
split
intersection we're
phasing.
talking about.
Right.
And Tony, maybe you want to talk about split phasing of the traffic signals and
Well, I mean,
what that
right
does.
now at 4th, you have a situation where you've provided a phase for left turners. People who are going west and want to go south on 4th. There's a phase that's dedicated for them, and you get 4 cars through that or however many. But the effect of that is, again, you're forcing anybody that wants to be through to be in a different lane. They're going to have to be in the outside lane, so now you're really at that de facto third lane, 3-lane section again. And that whole intersection now is affected because you now have, there's a transition. You go from that phase to another phase where both can go through. And it delays all the vehicles in the intersection because of that in a way that doesn't now. And with a dedicated left turn lane and the sensing logic, you have detectors for these, it's possible that you use, instead of a protected phase, there's a permissive phase that allows them to turn left when it goes green, as you've seen on other signals. Sometimes when you show up, it's a dedicated left, other times it's not. And it just depends on how many vehicles are there. But you have much more flexibility to phase the signals when you have a dedicated turn lane for the vehicles. And you really can't have that right now because they're in a through lane. And it may be the case that they're not exactly equivalent because you just don't have that opportunity when you don't have a lane for left turners.
Can you talk a little bit more about when you use the phrase the geometry of the intersection? Can you explain that a little bit more? What's different about the geometry of the intersection in a 3-lane versus a 4-lane?
Really nothing on Bremer. Okay. On Bremer, it's just, instead of having 2 lanes through, you saw it's just a center turn lane with a 12-foot lane on both sides and then a buffer and then room for parking. When we were talking about the geometry before of changing it at that intersection to try to put 2 lanes in for turning or something, sometimes we have to, we use a design vehicle, a truck, to make sure that it can make the turn and not hit a car or have enough room to turn onto the road that it's turning onto. And that geometry is really what we talk about at every intersection. As proposed right now, the only geometry improvements at 4th would be just really on Bremer itself, and that's just creating the 3-lane section and then making adjustments in the traffic signals and the detection to allow it to function properly. I hope I answered your question.
I think so.
Okay.
I think I think I can go too. Okay. When we were looking at the long range, when we had more turning from westbound to southbound, was to add a dual turn lane, which then would make us redo the southeast leg of that intersection to widen it out so that we could get the 2 trucks. I mean, that would be way, way, way down the future. Okay.
And something we haven't talked about too much, but I did have a few people contact me this week about concerns, not just here. I mean, there are a few businesses where you are parking and have to get out of your car, but I've had even more people who talk about being downtown, who either have lived or live there in one of the condominiums or apartments, or just going for shopping and the dangers involved with opening your door and getting out of your car. And this would add, again, if it were to go 3-lane, how much more room would you have when you're parking and then getting out of your car there, opening your car door?
Yeah, that's the 5-foot buffer.
There's 5 feet.
There's 5 foot. And the lane is 12 feet, and an average legal car width is 8.5. So you have 5 or 6 feet, possibly. Yeah, right now with the 4-lane section, you don't have any.
Because of our need to survive, we look very good in our mirrors before we open up our doors. But this would be different. Thank you for pointing that out. That part seems to me, would be non-negotiably good to be able to park and be able to get out of your vehicle more safely. But we, as a town, we are, thank you, because we're all just collecting data. Some of us have a preference already, but the preference with the asterisk that we have to keep looking at this, and we have to grow into it one way or the other. And but we have to be wise as a council, and so we are all listening. And you've been very rational and very strategic, and so we'll be taking it from there. Any last questions from the council to our wonderful presenters?
I have kind of just a theoretical question, I guess, but it's related to cost. If, I know this is a big if, but if we were to try the 3-lane and put a sunset on it with a reevaluation with citizen input, what would that cost us? Apart from, I know you're saying that, there would be, but what would the real cost of repainting the lines be, I guess, and the traffic lights or whatever else? And what would be a reasonable period of time if one were to approach it that way to give it a shot, so to speak, and see how the citizens react and how the businesses react?
I'll try to remember what Dave said at the last meeting, but, as far as, and I'll get into all aspects, the safety aspects, you're probably looking at a couple years before you have to have the trends and things on that. Operational wise, maybe 6-9 months. You want to give it a chance. You got to get everybody used to it. You got to be able to drive through there, see how it's working operational, go through a summer, go through a school session, reevaluate it at that time. And I know that Dave said when he was here that the DOT isn't leaving. They'll be here working with you. And as we said at that time, it is changing out. You'll be moving signal heads. You'll be repainting. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a significant cost, but basically it's a 1-day, 2-day operation. You come in one day, you take the pavement markings off. The next day you come in and you repaint them. I'd have to look and see what the actual cost is.
Let's just say we did that for 3 years, looked at the traffic counts, looked at how citizens were reacting, and let's just say nobody's happy with it. And then we say, well, maybe we should go back to 4-lane. What would the additional cost be to do that?
I remember the comment of $100,000.
Okay.
There's curb
the
bump
note that I
outs too,
made.
though. The plan is to have curb bump outs, I thought.
Pardon?
I thought the plan was to have curb bump outs.
Yeah,
as part of
they
this.
would not be affected.
Okay.
They don't go, the curb bump outs don't go past the parking.
Okay.
So you still have your 5-foot clear all the way through.
I realized that. I didn't know if that would impact the 3 versus 4-lane.
Nope. But really, it's the signal placements and the paint. And I can't give, but I can look into that and figure out what the paint costs. But it would not be a significant. It's not. We're not looking at $100,000. We're considerably less than that.
Okay. Yeah, if you could find that out, I would be interested in knowing that.
Yeah. I think one thing we have to confirm is too. A while back, I brought up the combine example, and that wasn't misinformation. Combine width is between, depending on the tire size and the classic combine, 18 to 20 feet. So we should probably relook at the measurements.
I stopped at Case on the way to this meeting. Their biggest, newest combine with duals was about 16 feet. I went out and actually physically measured it because I knew that, But we're looking at, we have 17 feet or we have 22 and a half.
I'm fact-checking as we talk. I kind of work for, I don't want to, but, so I just went online, even looked at a Kloss combine. Online it's 18 feet, and that's a standard size. It's a small combine, so 17 feet won't cut it. 17 foot is actually, you can probably get a configuration where it's tire width. That leaves no space. So,
but we also have part of the other lane, so you have actually looking at the display at 22 and a half.
It was just a representation. We don't have to talk about combines. There's other stuff that's big too.
Right.
I don't know many combines that are 17 feet, but I just didn't want to leave that it was some kind of misinformation.
No, and I guess I did measure them, so it's the best I can do.
Yeah, it was the combine that you saw on the lot with the tire configuration that you saw and the wheel spacings that you saw.
Right off the truck for transport. transport, really.
Off a truck for transport.
No,
or-
it was in the lot.
Yeah, but anyway, that's,
But either way, it's the same,
it was just
same size
representation.
comes
I don't-
through on the
yeah, I
4-lane
don't-
or the
We don't
3-lane.
want to
That's
get into
not a
drawings
big
and
deal.
stuff. I was just saying, we got to be careful.
Any last
misinformation.
any last thoughts?
I do. I'll be quick. There was the issue brought up about snow removal and how it differs from today. And I said it would be no worse. And what I actually want to point out is, there are actually some potential benefits. So for probably 75% of our snow events, that we can actually, the orange is representing the windrow of snow. And you see it's, in this scenario, it's being pushed off center. Right now, under today's configuration, it ends up having to go right down the center lane. With the 3-lane configuration, probably for about 75% of our snow events, we would able to nudge it over off center, but still keep it in that center turn lane area. So that's actually better than I had thought after given it some consideration. So I guess the snow removal is at worse, no worse, and potentially even a little bit better than today's situation.
Mike, was it you who learned from another city that, I'm just curious about this, that was, I think it was Sioux Falls, maybe? Sioux Center?
Actually, I think it was Sheldon. The city manager said DOT takes our snow because it's a state highway. I was surprised to hear that. Do you know why that would be?
Well, we have an agreement with the DOT. They pay us to take care of portions of Bremer Avenue as well as portions of 4th Street. So we are compensated for that. I think that it works to our advantage because we're able to, I think, cater to our customers a little bit better. And in the downtown business district, it's basically concrete from storefront to storefront. So what we initially do during the snow event is we pull, when we can, we pull it into the middle. And then we give the adjacent property owners the next day to shovel their walk. They push it into the parking lane. And then that evening we pull that snow material into the middle as well. And we are then able to use our rotary snow blower to pick it up and haul it away. So that's typically a 2-day operation depending on when the snowfall starts and when it ends.
So it gives us more control.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mike, as long as you're at the mic, I've had 2 people make comment on this. Do we ever turn off the left turn arrow to go south on 4th Street when you're?
Yes, it has a nighttime setting where it isn't needed.
They just said that they pulled up there and thought they were going to have the arrow, and it was 8 o'clock at night type thing, and
yeah, it's not there.
Was coming the other way, and they
Pay
didn't have it
attention.
and almost got hit type thing. So
Pay attention.
Actually prosecuted somebody for going through the signal. They expected it to come up, and they rushed right through, and then the police gave them a ticket for that.
I think that's a good piece of information to share with folks, is make sure you do look for the turn arrow before you turn.
The other thing about the 4th Street intersection that I want to point out is we do have vehicle detection on 4th Street, but not on the Bremer Avenue. So the controlling movement is Bremer Avenue that has the higher traffic volume. So the vehicle detection is set for 4th Street. And it knows, like, whether the northbound traffic, it knows whether there are vehicles in the left turn lane or not. Because if there are not any vehicles in that left turn lane, you get green lights north and south at the same time. You do not have that protected left turn movement if there's no vehicles there. Mm-hmm. Those are really nice features of modern signal setups. And that's where back in 2009, 2010, we went through and added vehicle detection to the side streets. And I know they've been a little glitchy on the east side here on when do they pick up vehicles. And because the bulk of the traffic is on Bremer Avenue, you may sit for 40 to 60 seconds on a side street if you're the only vehicle there. But boy, it knows exactly how many vehicles are sitting and waiting, and whether you have one vehicle or four vehicle, it adjusts that green light for you on the side street. So, typically if there's upwards of 4 to 5 vehicles, when that last vehicle goes through, it's changing back and giving the permission to the Bremer Avenue traffic.
Mike, this is not directly relevant to this conversation, I don't think, but it reminds me of it. I myself stood at the southwest corner of Bramer and 4th and never got a walking light. Never got to cross, never got a...
And you activated the push?
No, no, I didn't, and I wondered about that. But that's like far away, for the other, to going the other direction.
And that's one of the things that we did talk about during the public information meetings, is that some of the PED crossing buttons, seem to be quite a distance away from where someone would typically be standing. If you do not activate the PED crossing button, you will not get the pedestrian crossing.
It looks like it's for the other crossing. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's for that crossing.
Yep. We're aware of that, and we've had some conversations about moving. Even though the signal towers are further back, is that some places have up closer to the crossing, it's just a bollard with the button on it. Yeah. So we are reviewing those options.
It's not a huge deal, but I was surprised.
From the public who is watching here in the council room, is there anything that the council hasn't picked up that you've been sitting on that needs to be asked?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just have a comment that I'd like to make sure you consider when you consider this 4 to 3 lane.
Your name, please.
My name is Carolina Wilson. I'm up here on First Avenue, part of Ward 1. And
I'm sorry.
What?
Where do you live again?
Up here on First Avenue.
Okay.
And I was really excited when I heard about the possibility of the 3-lane. And the main reason is because I like to bicycle. And getting through town, obviously, Bremer is the best way for me to get through town, to get across. And I ride to Hy-Vee to get my groceries. I ride to the library. I ride to friends all over town. And that buffer lane is perfect for bikes. And it's a safe way to get through town. At times now, when I ride on Bremer, but there's other times, particularly Sunday morning, I'll just ride on the sidewalk because there's no one there. And I know the vehicles in this town aren't particularly friendly to bicycles because they consider you slow. Well, yesterday when I was going to church, I was going 17, 20 miles an hour on a sidewalk. And I don't think you want me doing that on a sidewalk when there's people walking there. So that buffer is perfect for bicycles too. And I think you need to consider that and maybe even put the Shero arrows down there for that. Because this town is the perfect size to have bicyclists. I work down in Cedar Falls. I would not ride my bike down there on their city streets because there's too much traffic. But the size of this city, I think you should consider promoting cycling more even. Hey, it's perfect for your health. That's the main reason I do it. Weekends, I try to park my car and not drive it from Friday evening till Monday morning. And you'll see me riding around with my helmet, with my panniers, getting my groceries, going to garage sales, going to the library, doing all those things, living life on a bicycle on the weekend. And I want to make sure that you consider that too when you're talking about 3-lane, 4-lane, what's the safest? It's not just the 4-wheel vehicles. It's also the 2-wheel vehicles and your pedestrians on the sidewalk that are dealing with them.
Appreciate it. Any other comments of anything we've missed here as a council that might be helpful?
are you really talking about additional questions that maybe the council didn't ask of these guys?
Yeah. Or,
Like to
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, that's what I'd like.
And just so you can hear me, I guess I'll come up to the mic just to say, one of the things I thought they wanted particularly addressed tonight was the emergency vehicle question, and you did do that. But I know, there was some articles in the paper, interviews in the paper of Dan Pickett and Chief Purcell over here, our all-star chief, and Dennis Hoppel, who was here earlier, where there were some concerns raised in those articles about emergency vehicles and how that would be affected by this intersection. And I think that the fact is that there's been some follow-up contact between the DOT and at least Dan Pickett, because I followed up with Dan Pickett because I had a lot of questions about what he was saying there. If that's something that's particularly on your mind, I think there's a lot of follow-up to the information that may have been in those articles about that factor, and a lot more information to consider. And I guess I didn't really hear a clear description from you guys here about what you commented a bit on emergency vehicles. I don't know if are you familiar with what Chief Pickett talked about, or what Fire Chief Hoppel talked about, and has there been discussion further amongst you guys? Because I think it's a lot richer discussion than came out in those articles, or I heard anything discussion about tonight. I think there are good answers to it. I think that you need a lot of information on that. If that's critical to your thinking about how you're going to vote, I hope you'll do your homework and really get those questions answered, because obviously if there was a big impact on emergency vehicles response, we need to know that. That's a key fundamental factor. But I think there's a lot more information than we've heard here tonight or in those articles about it. So my question is, what's going on to get those things fully satisfied and considered?
I would like to have our either WHKS or Nick or somebody speak to that.
Yeah, I know the Sheriff Deputy Pickett had sent us an email with a couple follow-up questions. He did reach out to Sioux Center's police chief and talked with them. One of the questions that Pickett had was, how does Sioux Center's cross-section compare to what we're proposing for Waverly? I took a look at that, and Sioux Center's back-to-back in the narrowest section is 49 feet, and at the widest it was 69 feet. What we've got proposed by WHKS at the narrowest is 49 feet back-to-back, and it's 67 feet back-to-back. So we're 2 feet narrower. Where I found we lose that 2 feet in the Waverly section is the center turn lane. The center turn lane in Waverly is proposed to be 14 feet. The center turn lane in Sioux Center was 16. 16 is our standard width on most highways. They had the room, and that's why they have the 16. We're basically UAC in the existing curb and gutter section here. And the other point that Pickett was making was the limited river bridge crossing. Waverly has the one crossing today. Sioux Center doesn't have that same issue, but I guess those emergency responders still have that same issue, whether it's a 3-lane or a 4-lane to get across the river bridge. So I guess I didn't look any further into that, but that's kind of the 2 points that he still had, and I'm going to follow up with him. That answer your?
Well, one point that
take your time.
One point that Chief Hoppel made was he was concerned with if traffic is slowed, if you have greater lengths of time to get through town, how that might affect his responders at a fire. His volunteers come from wherever they come from, and a possible slowing of that response, I think, was a specific that he had in mind. Has that been addressed? Has he been talked to? I followed up with Pickett last week, but I didn't have the guts to call Hoppel because I figured he was probably pretty busy with some other matters. So, I hope hopefully people are following up on this.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can, I guess, to talk to the different organizations and different groups to try to address the question.
We have none other than Dan McKenzie here, who used to be our chief and all kinds of stuff, and you're on this one times 10. Any thoughts or reflecting for the department?
I try very hard not
Turn the
to wear
spotlight
two
on.
hats at the same time, so I
like my
will
combine
not
question.
speak for Chief Hoppel. I do respect his opinions, but again, yes, I don't know, I don't want to say unfortunately, but the uniqueness with the volunteer department is you do need to get the people to the station first. So yes, I have some concerns that there may be some negative impact in getting folks there. Again, the community is very supportive of our blue lights, and they do move over. I see them moving over more for my little blue light in my pickup than they do for the big red truck with all the flashing lights and sirens. So there's certainly that issue. And then again, many times I've had to take our truck into oncoming traffic to get through the 4th Street and Bremer intersection. There's, again,
How many guys have to come
when
out?
I look at this, neither one of these solutions is perfect. You're going to have you're always going to have some backup. You're always going to have those situations where there's congestion, and the community will find a way around it. And again, I respect Chief Hoppel and the sheriff, and Rich was very good about there's pros and cons to both of them. We need to weigh that into there, but I feel comfortable in being usually on the first truck out that we'll navigate a 3-lane or a 4-lane, very similar to what we do today.
How many firefighters have to get to the station in a call?
We usually don't, we try not to leave with less than 6, but depending on what the situation is, we can leave with 4. For a normal response, we like to have 6 to 10. So, but again, part of the reason we chose to build a new station where it was is it's centrally located, so we have people that don't even need to use Bremer to get east and west. They're coming from the north and south, so they just have to cross it. It's not like everybody has to come on Bremer to get to the station, those type of things.
Chuck, can I have one more thought? But
Yes, Mr. Egley?
I'd like to see them address, and that is...
Speak right and
Mike-
start over
Mike-
again.
Excuse me?
Start over again.
Oh, just one other thought. Mike Cherry said earlier when he explained what these guys were doing here, and the additional issues they were talking about is that public safety apparently has been somewhat poo-pooed as an idea. The mere fact that we're cutting back accidents on this road, 50% doesn't seem to be persuasive. Those are all apparently fender benders and all that. By the way, the diagram you were looking at, the intersection of 4th Street and Bremer Avenue on the west side was the site where Melba Growler was killed sometime within the last decade or so as a pedestrian. I don't know, Melba's an old friend of Waverly. She worked at Eckers for many years. She walked to work because she didn't have a driver's license, so she lived downtown and was frequently through that intersection. She was killed there. Somebody made a comment in the paper last week about these are not serious. These accidents are fender bumpers. They're not serious matters. That's a death that did result on that because of the 4-way configuration of that matter. And I know of another accident that occurred just east on the first block east of the river, where a pedestrian again was knocked down by a motorist trying to enter onto Bremer Avenue, and was so busy looking at the traffic trying to figure out how to get that done, he didn't see her as a pedestrian crossing the road, knocked down and was injured. And that person who I know said was concerned when that happened that he never did see her and would proceed to drive over her. So we're talking about serious matters, guys. I mean, if you can save 50% of your accidents, you can't just gloss over that. That's a big deal. Particularly if your countervailing concern is whether a combine can get through town. I mean, it just doesn't seem to me those are equatable matters. But what I'm wondering about is, do you have the information on severity we had the accident frequency information, and what kind of accidents are we talking about?
As you addressed that, I made a request. I was curious, made a request to our police chief for data, and he filed a report with the DOT, I believe. But my interest was, we talked about the number of accidents in Waverly from 2012 to 2014 was the data that was in the report, and we zeroed in on Bremer Avenue. What I was interested in, I was curious why we stopped at 2014 and why we only used 2 years. What I asked for was 2012 to current in the whole city. I mean, I had a very serious accident on my street, and I'm not on Bremer Avenue, so I was just curious. Without the complete picture, I have a hard time seeing that the accident data is valid at all, without kind of understanding the whole city and the dynamics of the accidents across the city. So if we could get that data, that'd be very helpful.
Okay, yeah, usually we use 2012, 13, 14, so it's a 3-year period that we looked at.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last year that we had available. But we were only looking at Bremer Avenue as our traffic study. So basically we looked at the total number of accidents in town, which was 400 and some.
Number.
And
So I was just
25% were on Bremer Avenue.
To put it into perspective.
Yeah. Of what your percentage, to be able to give you what the crash rate is at different, for that thing. But basically.
What was the percentage on Bremer again? I think that's it.
In that 3-year period, it was roughly 25% of the accidents occurred that were reported were on Bremer Avenue between 20th
But
and
I think
8th.
that'd be helpful.
There has to be some intuition here, too. I know, speaking for my own family, my wife walks a lot, was hit once and 2 times, I mean, it was just touched, but just absolutely obeying every law.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-lane does have that little bit of safety problem, does it not?
Yeah, and that's why we look at, approximately a 50% reduction in total crashes on the 3-lane, and we had the study that they looked at in, Clear Lake, Cresco, similar, I won't say the same situation that we have now, but they were studies that were done pre and post to be able to come up with that crash reduction rate that would be expected on a 4 to 3 conversion.
But every town that's converted to 3 has seen a reduction, is that correct?
I do believe so, yes. I think as we talked last time, I think there's only one city that has done it and has gone back.
Yeah, New Hampton.
So. But I guess going back to why we didn't look at other portions of town was basically because our study was on Bremer Avenue. So, but yeah, there are tools that we can get DOT to get
if we can get
crashes for the whole city.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I was just But.
Did that cover?
Do you have any information on severity?
Yeah, really we gave those at the last public information meeting and here, and so tonight we wanted to keep on task of basically answering the questions that came up after the last meeting. So we didn't want to rehash everything that we've gone through before.
If I remember right, Steve, I think the largest percentage, and Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was the side-swiping kind of accident.
Right. Which was evident when you saw the video of the car coming out.
Yeah.
But certainly, but thank you, Mr. Egley. I think we want everything out there, anything council people are hearing anything. We want to deal with facts. We want to discover. We want to grow as a town into this one way or the other. So you've been greatly helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, public. And we have another week. Keep growing. Okay, thank you super much. Regular new business item number 9 is our AHTS architectural ideas for streetscape on our beloved Bremer Avenue. We're going to lean on Mr. Werger.
I'm not going to try to give a presentation that Larry's going to try to give next week, but I did want to just show you some. The sheets that were out on the tables were something that Larry did today based on information he was trying to get put together quickly so that you could see what we were talking about in the committee that's been meeting, the task force. Generally, we're trying to coordinate with Waverly Utilities because they're also looking at the lighting plan for the whole corridor. Just to give you some basic information about how that's going to work, if you have an intersection that has steel lights over on the above the traffic standards, you can have, if the intersection is lighted, you only need 2 antique lights per block. But if you don't have the steel lights, then you have to have 4 antiques per block on each side. So that means you have really 8. They're trying to reduce the numbers that they have because these are very expensive, and the lights to retrofit them are very expensive. And they're trying to put a little bit more steel throughout the corridor so that they can light the intersections better. So what they've proposed to do is to either have 1 or 2 steel lights, the high lights, per intersection, and then go to 2 antique lights in those blocks in which they have antique lights. We've tried to take it out, I think, all the way to 12th we were talking about, all the way to the railroad tracks. And we might even, we've talked to them about putting them in front of the Trinity Church and the library, just because it would be a good setting for those types of lights in that area. So we're trying to work with them on a plan. They're looking at light coverage. So when they have this, the map that they have looks kind of strange, but it has these little globes of color. And just to give you an idea how that looks, they're looking at the yellow lights currently, and a lot of those you see are 4 per block. And they still don't give that great a light, so they're trying to work out a way to get those antiques in between, but also have the steels on each intersection. So, but they're kind of doing that separately from us, so we have to go and find out what they're doing, and then we try to give them input, and maybe they can change some things and work on some things. So that's what we're trying to incorporate into the streetscape. Regardless of what the configuration of the street is, we need to make decisions about what the sidewalks and the curbs and those things are going to look like. All the plans have shown bump outs at certain intersections. I think starting from the east, there would be a bump out at the west side of the rail trail. It would be the east side of 4th, I believe. And so the intersection would be marked for the trail to go across, straight across, perpendicular, as opposed to when you get up there now and you kind of look like, what do I do now? Just make a dash across the diagonal, or which way do I go? We're trying to encourage them to go from the Sub-City corner straight south and then over to the Quick Star corner. And that'll be marked that way, and there'll be bump outs to make it more easier to see that way. The next 3 intersections would be the 3rd Street, the 2nd Street, and the 1st Street on the east. Those would all have bump outs on pretty much all 4 corners, except for where Bremer, you turn off Bremer on turn right, they would not have a bump out where you're turning right onto that side street. On that side street wouldn't have a bump out, but the Bremer Avenue would have the bump out. So those are shown on the ones that WHKS did, and they're also shown on Larry's, because he's going to be incorporating and trying to use the same mapping that Scott is using for his project. We got to the point where I think the consensus of the task force was to use the brick pattern in a different way, to use the same bricks but in a different way. And so what I think it's showing out there, which because it's such a high, it just shows a little strip of red. We're talking about a 4-foot strip along the curb instead of the 8-foot wide squares that are in the middle of the sidewalks now. Generally speaking, downtown and on the east and west, there'll be a lot of those that will be removed to put in new water services. And while we're doing that, we, instead of having a patchwork of new and old concrete, our thought was that we'd remove them all and then take that brick and put it down to the curb. And it would be somewhat like this example, which is the one from Macokota. Actually, this strip is probably about 5 feet wide, so it's a little bit, but it would be very similar to this. And then there would be an 8-foot wide walking lane down on the east side and mostly on the west side, so that you wouldn't have any brick pattern for most of the traffic, the pedestrian traffic on the sidewalks. And that would take away the places where the bricks aren't exactly even. There's been complaints about it being slippery. There's been some other concerns about that. So I think what we're doing is trying to keep the pattern, keep some kind of pattern to give some design to the street. If we didn't do this, we'd have new concrete from street front or storefront to storefront, and it would all be this white concrete all the way across. And we think this is a nice compromise because we can put our lights and our conduits and our trees within that 4-foot strip and have the concrete 8-foot strip most of the way.
Can you reuse the bricks?
Yes, we can. What we also would propose to do, which would be a little bit more expensive, is on that 4-foot strip, rather than putting them back on packed earth, soil, we would put a layer of rough concrete that would allow that to not move. So those bricks would not be heaving up and down. They would be able to be placed in there. And we could also put a hole through that layer that would allow for drainage into a rock layer underneath. So there's ways of designing this, and it would be some more cost to that, but in the long run, we'll have a brick strip that won't heave, that won't move, that should be set for good. So it would be a lot easier way. And I think I showed a picture at one point of a place that was doing that in the middle of the project, and they showed that open space before they put the bricks in.
2 questions on these squares that you see in this town. I like that. It's better than just a straight strip. It adds a little bit more whatever.
And we have 2 or 3 different colors of bricks, so they can do a pattern. So there'll be an opportunity to create a pattern where you use the dark bricks in some manner. And I'm going to leave that to Larry to propose.
But I'm talking about the cement too. The cement here isn't just straight slab.
Right.
It's got.
And there's some way to do how they do the troweling. We don't want to have slippery spots because you can notice that sometimes you get really slippery if you do it too smooth, so you got the uneven surfaces. Mm-hmm. So there's ways of doing it that are really pedestrian friendly, and we still need to make that kind of planning decision at some point, and I think Larry's a good one to help us with that, Larry Kurtz. Right now, we're looking at downtown on the east side and probably on the west side that there'd be 2 lights, antique lights per block. Some of these blocks now have 3. So they go down to 2 because the intersections are going to be well lit enough that they don't need any more. And in fact, the DOT doesn't want us to have too much light, and they don't want to have too little light. They actually make you kind of get this nice green color instead of when you get to the yellow or red, they say you have too much light in a particular place. Because you want to have it even throughout your corridor so that people aren't going from light to dark, and it's easier for them. It's more attractive for that too, that you're doing that. So we're trying to work with then the configuration of the lights being fairly uniform, because we have to have those antique lights be uniform in order to provide the right coverage. And then we wanted to fill in with some trees and maybe some planters. And so Larry's idea out here, and if you can take a look, there's one strip that has more trees and one has fewer trees and more planters. He has moved and he's got 2 trees per block on one and 3 trees per block on the other. But basically that's pretty much on the lights. There'd be one in the middle and one on each side of the lights before you get to the corners. That's a work in progress, and we want your input on that. And Larry does, and if you give it to me, I'll give it back to Larry. But we really want to give him some input back on what we'd like to see for that. The one thing was there was concern about the design or the kind of trees, what we're putting in, and we don't want trees that can grow 45 feet in the air and widen out to huge canopies that block everything. So there are trees that are used a lot that are more columnar, narrower but taller, and there's a variety. We can use 2 or 3 kinds. I know Tab doesn't want to use the same kind in case some bug figures out how to attack the kind we choose. But there's ways of making it so that it doesn't look so regimented and has some different kinds of trees, and we're trying to incorporate that into this design. We're trying to work out places that we could put benches, but we're not necessarily putting in this project budget benches. We're just showing where they could be placed. Larry's thought, if you look out there, is that there would be some planters, small planters near the bump outs to provide some pedestrian refuge. He was talking about an accident that occurred, I think it was in Waterloo. I can't remember if it was Waterloo. But somebody went through an intersection and hit one of those planters and stopped instead of plowing down the sidewalk. So it kind of works as one of those barriers at an intersection. So that's why he has placed a small a planter at each intersection in the downtown area in order to do some protection of those areas. We're still staying back from the bump outs so that you can roll over those with a big truck. If you catch the corner of that when you're going around, they won't be a curb. That'll be a rollover curb so that it won't damage. And our plows can maybe hit that once in a while if they trying to get close but get too close. And we don't want to damage it when that happens. And so this is a way of we'll still mark that bump out with some color, but it won't be the bricks. It'll probably be either colored concrete or something of that nature. So he's working on some more ideas. He's hoped to have a lot more for you next week. And you just take a look at those out there that are right now and make any comments you can to Larry. Otherwise, it's still a work in progress. We'll be back to you. We apologize for not having it any sooner than we could. So, any questions that anybody has?
Comment. To me, this is our investment in the future. Our future of our downtown, east and west, depends on this being attractive. I don't think money should be a consideration. This is an investment. We won't be able to remember 5 years down, 2 years down, whether we spent just a little bit to make it really, really nice. I think if we make those bricks secure with a little extra money, that's fine. You could even do that in the same configuration we have now so that they wouldn't heave. I don't know if this is as creative as what we got now, but it's pretty straight line and simple to me, but it'll fine but this isn't necessarily the final whatever, right?
Right. It's a pretty
So
common way
line,
for cities to
It
do
doesn't
this,
have
though.
that new little, yeah.
It's pretty common for them to use strips along the curb as a design, either inset or whatever. But a lot of them do use that curbed side pattern, and not as many use the other style. But I mean, there's so many styles. They're all across the board. You can Google it and get on and see all kinds of them. So I'm going to leave it to Larry to provide any more information next week.
Thank you. Unless there are any parting words here, our regular business item number 10 is mayoral appointments. I'd like to reappoint Tara Harn to our Cable Commission. Is there a motion?
Move mayoral reappointment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
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 Opposed with no. Tara, you are reappointed. We have some reports of boards and commissions. The monthly financial report for July has been given to us. Any comments? Officially received. Library Board of Trustees minutes for July 12th. Comments? Officially received. Economic Development Commission missions for August 9th. Comments? Officially received. Leisure Services Commission minutes for August 18th. Comments? Officially received. Waverly Senior Calendar for September. Comments? Officially received. Staff comments.
I don't have any, Mayor, unless staff has anything they want to add tonight.
Council comments. Let's go with Edie, Dan, Dave.
I don't have any, thank you.
Mr. Dan. David? Ooh. This side. Pro Temp. All right. Dan?
I've got a procedural question. I don't know if it's because of the Bremer Avenue project and we've got more people in attendance or watching, but I've had two individuals come up to me in the last couple of weeks and just ask, when we do resolutions, we always do a voice vote, so it's pretty easy to see where people are. But both these individuals indicated that they've watched or been in attendance when we do voice votes. There apparently are some folks that are not voting either yay or nay. They just don't vote. And I don't know if we need to watch that and have that be part of the proceedings, or how that should be handled.
Like an abstention, as you're talking about? Is it?
That's, the way it was explained to me was they seemed to be preoccupied with other things and did not utter a yay or a nay. And again, I'm not pointing fingers, it was just brought to my attention, so they may have, but it didn't appear to, from the public's perspective.
I would have to look through the Roberts rules, but I think in that situation, silence is assent.
I think so.
Comes across is that in a voice situation, you go with the affirmative. If there's no voice in the negative, you have to affirm the negative. So,
yeah.
If there's nothing speaking up in the negative, then it's assumed that you're with the affirmative.
I would agree with that when it's a voice vote, because you won't really hear all the voices maybe distinctly, but you're assuming
some
that
people
if,
vote like,
if nobody votes no, that everybody voted yes.
You know, that you won't really see it, yeah. Hopefully. But also, note taken. Thank you. Matthew, any comments? Great to have you a part of tonight.
Thank you.
None.
No comment.
Okay. And no mayoral comments. This time we'll be moving into executive session. We're going to be tackling public safety negotiations. So thank you, public, for being here. Is there a motion to move to executive session?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Do we have to technically
You
read
have to
it?
actually make the motion as to why we're going, so that it's documented.
The motion has to be read, and it has to be roll call.
Okay, thank you for cleaning us up. David, can you go the extra mile, reading off of me?
So I move we move into executive session to discuss collective bargaining strategy for upcoming public safety unit and public safety unit negotiations as provided by Section 20.17(3) of the Code of Iowa.
Mike, and all in favor, roll call vote.
Angus.
Yes.
Reznacek.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Scher.
Yes.
We move into executive session on a unanimous vote.